Hi, I'm Vinny and welcome back to DIY Prop Shop, where we show you how to make props at home. So go ahead and get started. I'll wait. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, which will help you build a professional-looking website regardless of your skill level. Now let's get ready to Skyrim and chill. So my wife and I love to play Skyrim, and today we're going to be crafting the Elder Scroll. That's the scroll that contains all the mysteries of the universe and even prophecies of the future, and if you're not mentally prepared to read it, you will go insane. So I hope you're ready for this. So we're looking at a decently big prop here, maybe about that big, with a scroll that actually comes down out of it. And on that, it looks like we've got a map with some dragon text. Apart from that, it looks like there's very ornate detailing on the handles, and I've got a few ideas on how to make that. So for the actual scroll, I thought I would try a length of vinyl window shade, and they'll actually cut this at the store for you, and in total this was about $7. To house the scroll, I've got a scrap piece of PVC, and I've cut a center slot down it. You could do this with a hacksaw or a table saw if you build a sled and you're extremely careful with that cut. You can get this new at the store for about $3. So I think I'd like to have the Elder Scroll be able to come apart in 3 pieces. So we know that we've got our main body, and I've got 2 PVC end caps to go on that. We'd like to mount that shade in between the end caps, and to do that we've got mounting hardware that comes with that pull shade, but there's a little nub inside the PVC, so I think first I'm going to mount that to a piece of wood and then bond that wood to the inside of the cap. And off of these caps, I'd like to build out that special ornamentation that makes up each handle. So for that ornamentation, I've actually got banister tops, which I just got from a hardware store, and you might find different options at yours, but mine ranged from $2 to $8 each. They come in all different sizes, and you get some really interesting shapes that might be exactly what you're looking for. You may also have good luck with curtain rod. This was about $20, but I decided to splurge on it because the end caps looked like exactly what I was looking for. So now that our wood blocks are dry, we can go ahead and screw in the mounts that will hold the vinyl shade. You always want to make sure that we tighten to the German standard, which is good and tight. So I know we're going to want some sort of a guard to wrap down around the Elder Scroll, and inside of that we're going to want to etch some detail. And I really would like to use thermoplastic again for that. So if you saw the last episode I was in with the Mad Max face mask, I used that thermoplastic a lot to get some really interesting shapes. So here's what we'll do. I've got 2 pieces of the black thermoplastic that I cut out to make this guard shape. So I'm going to use a heat gun to melt down this thermoplastic, and I can't stress enough how dangerous these can be. That's why I've got foil taped down over my table in double layer to protect it. You definitely do not want to do this on your carpet or anything that could catch fire, because this metal tip is going to get extremely hot. Absolutely do not touch that. And as you use this, you want to keep the heat gun moving. You never want to let that dwell in one place, because even though the thermoplastic can take a lot, it can still burn if you leave it in one spot for too long. So for this wraparound piece, we're going to need a dimensional border for the bottom. So I drew and cut out 2 of these identical shapes out of the thermoplastic. I'll bond these together, and then we'll bond that all down here. So right now we've got our thermoplastic wrapped around the pipe, and I'm making sure that this bottom flap doesn't fold itself back over. So we're going to let this dry for a second, and then I'll come back and shape this. So while the main body of our Elder Scroll is just drying up now from that last layer of sculpting, I know that we're going to need to join up these two dowels to act as the bottom part of the scroll handle. And to join these two together, we'll need something that holds them at the ends. And I think we're going to make two little potato chip looking pieces out of the thermoplastic to drill through them and then screw right into these dowels. Something like that. So we'll have a center here, and we'll have a center up there. I think I'm actually going to double up in the thickness on each of these, just so it makes it a little bit more sturdy. Now that these are dry, nice and sturdy, we're going to drill 2 holes in each of these, just large enough for a screw to fit through. Yeah, that'll work out nicely. So the time has come to start doing some ornate detailing to our wood pieces. I'm going to, well, first we're going to see if the thermoplastic wants to stick to the wood, and I hope it will. We're going to do a couple wraps and make sort of a crisscross lattice around this piece, and that'll go right onto the main body. So I've marked out where I want the star to be. So at this point we can mix our A and B epoxy together on the table, and I'll sculpt it right on top of these markings. So to get the final mix right of the epoxy sculpt, we need equal parts A and B. We're going to roll them out, twist them up, and then we'll roll that into a nice working piece of clay. Alright, we're mixed. So my strategy is just put down clay until it looks good. If you can't sculpt, just make it up. It'll be fine.
Can you put the song from Ghost Town again?
So, I don't know if I'm done, but I think I better stop. In any case, my grilled leeks are here, so I'll be right back. So we've got our vinyl window shade outside, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a base coat of this tan color to make that look like, you know, like an old animal skin. And then once this is dry, we can paint the symbols by hand right on top of it. So our epoxy star is dry, and we can prime the body of the Elder Scroll. Before we go ahead and paint though, make sure you scrape off all those little crusticles because they'll all get trapped as soon as you prime. So just whatever you don't want on here, get it off now. Well crap, I better finish this up before Alduin turns the world to total darkness. So the scroll opens up to what looks like an ancient map with concentric ovals coming out from the center, which I actually chose to be this little point right here. And then apart from that, we've got many angles that are going to intersect that point in the center. And then just a few other little circles all over the place on here. And you've already bought a perfect circle maker, so we'll use this to trace. And all of this tracing of lines is really just so we can have a template to paint on. So after drawing our lines out in brown colored pencil, that's actually the look that we wanted. I don't think there's any need to go over it again with brown paint. So what I will do at this point, I'm going to use a blue pastel and just give some accents to some of these circles inside. Just want to make sure you don't use any kind of watercolor because this is not a porous material and it'll really just wipe right off. So I would stick to this. We're going to try and experiment. As you can see, I've already gold painted this little strip of the thermoplastic, and what I'd like to do is wrap it around this red section of the handle. And what I don't know is what's going to happen to the paint after I heat it, so we're going to find out. Alright, I'm liking it. Give it a good once over. Alright, so that's a lot. But stay with me, we're going to put everything together now. So we've got our dowel that I'm going to slip inside of the fold over on the window shade, and we'll be able to hold these two dowels together with that little potato chip that we made. We're just going to screw right through this into the dowel ends. So we've got our main body of the Elder Scroll, and we're going to start to add on all of the handle pieces. Some of this I can connect with just screws. Other pieces like these banister tops I'm going to connect with these little dowels that we made. So in joining these pieces together, we've got our dowel hole, so we'll just kind of dry fit that in there. But around the edge, we'll be doing a line of epoxy as well before we tighten that down. Basic procedure. So we've got these guys, if you remember them, right onto them, we're going to screw in part of the banister top that we cut. They hold in the window shade. On the back of that, we're going to put SpongeBob's house. And from there, we've got a couple other little banister pieces and the handle, and that's all going to get doweled in. So this whole thing is drying, and this is a good time to stick our gems on. I was going to go with these crazy little irregular gems, but it turns out that I hate them. So I'm gonna go with these nice ones that have a nice flat back and we can just glue them right on. So to make this quick, I'm gonna put just a little dot of super glue on each of these, and we'll stick these little homeboys all around here, and then one in the center, and we're all set. All right, Dovahkiin, so we've got a really big Elder Scroll. Actually, it reminds me of my adventuring days, but that was before I took an arrow to the knee. If you've got any suggestions on what we should build next, send an email to DIYpropshop@break.com, and I'll see you back here next time. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. For more information, click the link in the description. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome builds.